In this video, we're going to talk about how to work in a political campaign. Frankly, it is easy as 1, 2, 3. I'm going to show you how it's done, how you make yourself indispensable, and how you get on the payroll of a political campaign. What we're going to cover in this video is how to find a candidate you like and why that's important, how you get your foot in the door, and that's imperative, how you make the most of your opportunity once your foot is in the door by making yourself indispensable, and how you make the transition from volunteer to being on the payroll. We're going to cover all of this. In fact, we're going to do a deep dive into each one of these. First order of business in getting a job on a political campaign is volunteering for a candidate that you actually like. One that you agree with their major issue positions. One who has a reasonably pleasant personality, and truthfully, not all candidates have that. So the reason it's important because it's very hard to give your best efforts as a volunteer to a candidate that you cannot stand, who has a nasty personality, who constantly campaigns, who stands for things that you don't think are appropriate in public life. So, number one, figure out early who you'd like to be hitched up with. Now, where do you go to do that? You can go on websites and look at the candidates, their presentation. They have ways of getting in touch with them. You can go to Google and figure out who's running in your community. And if you're persistent, you find a phone number, an email address, or if push comes to shove, go show up at the front door of their headquarters and say, I'd like to volunteer today. What do you need done? Second point about getting a job on the payroll, now I'm talking as a volunteer, is be the best volunteer that candidate has. You make yourself indispensable. Now, how do you do that? Well, number one is you go out of your way to make sure you get along with everybody. Even if people say something that you don't like or don't agree with, don't make a big deal out of it. Just nod your head and keep moving on and move the subject to something else if a disagreement is starting. But part of the art of being a good volunteer is getting along with everybody involved in the campaign, because no candidate wants to deal with a volunteer argument. You know what happens when that happens? They both get kicked out of the headquarters. You won't score a point. So one, make a friend and be a friend to all of the other volunteers. Two, make sure that you keep every commitment that you make to that candidate or a member of the campaign staff in the campaign where you have volunteered. Why? Well, it says something about your sense of responsibility. If you say to somebody, yes, I'll be at such and such shopping center at 9 o'clock to help hand out leaflets at the shopping mall, be there at 5 till 9. If you said you're going to be at a certain neighborhood at a certain time to put up yard signs or help somebody do that, be there a few minutes before. Your work habits speak volumes about you, and I will say that if you operate this way, you keep every commitment you make, you are eligible to be put on a payroll at some point. If you don't, you will never even be considered for a paying job. Fourth point I'm going to make here is how to take initiative, because it's one way to make yourself indispensable in a political campaign. Have an eye for things that are not being done well. Keep an eye out for someone who's struggling with a job that they're having trouble completing. It may be another volunteer, it may be a member of the staff. Have your eye out for someone who's having a bad day and having some sort of difficulty, or may have had a rough afternoon after a contentious conversation with a reporter. Look for things that are not being done well. Look for tasks that are falling through the cracks because they're out of time to deal with them. One of the ways to make yourself indispensable is to take the initiative to get them done or get them off the ground, or helping someone who's struggling with a task, or even helping a senior staffer who's had a bad day by taking some of the workload off him or her. That is one way to ingratiate yourself with the paid staff members and it's another route to a paid position on a political campaign. Route to working for a political campaign number 5. I call it get the smarts. And this is what I mean by that. Information in politics is a source of power. If you make it a habit to be up to date on breaking news almost every moment of the day, if you make it a habit to keep track of what the opponent of the candidate you're working for is doing, everything his or her opponent has said, the kind of people they have running their campaigns, if you're looking constantly for new ways to keep your candidate in the news, or how to take a story and turn it into a new Facebook post or some commentary on Twitter, you can't do that unless you're paying very close attention. So this is a habit I saw one young volunteer develop that landed him a job on the senior staff. He made it a habit to get up early every day. He made it a habit to scan every newspaper, every piece of political news, including news about other candidates running in other races. He did that early in the morning. He would then go to Facebook and he would look at the Facebook account of people running against his boss. He would look at the social media accounts of the opponent and everything they've said and done. He would go to the campaign headquarters early because he knew the campaign manager also came in early, and he'd wait for the campaign manager to walk into the room. The campaign manager would someday say, "Hey, what's up?" And he always had an answer. He would say, "This happened yesterday. I saw that our opponent made a dumb mistake yesterday. I think we can capitalize that. I think it might be a good idea to hold a press conference here because this story popped up in the community next door to this one, and they got this problem in the community, and our candidate's been saying a lot about that issue, and that might be a photo op or a press hit." And the campaign manager did this for a week, every day. And each time, this young volunteer had a complete and total analysis because he had digested the news. He knew everything that had happened in that campaign the day before, everything that had happened in that community. And finally, one day, the manager said, "You know what? We have a senior staff meeting here at 8 o'clock. From now on, I want you sitting in there. And I'm going to look for a way to get you on the payroll because nobody on the senior staff knows what you know, and you're obviously taking the initiative, and I like that. And we're going to get you on the payroll as soon as we can." And that's how you got the job. So everything that I've mentioned in this video benefits really two kinds of people. There are those who love politics, but really, really never want to run for office. They just like helping good candidates win. They become what we call specialists and political operatives, and they live a wonderful life doing that. It's one of the ways they fulfill their cause, is they work for candidates who want to advance causes they're passionate about. And then there are those in this line of work that just love the limelight of being the center of attention and actually want to run for office. Everything that I have mentioned in this video helps both kinds of people. It starts with being a volunteer. It starts with becoming indispensable. It starts with learning the mechanics of a political campaign. It starts with doing every task well. So, next up, something that I spent a lot of time doing because I went through a history of dozens of campaigns that I've been involved with about how they handled volunteers, which ones had the best volunteer force, which of those volunteers ended up on the payroll of a political campaign, and some of them went on to be political consultants. And then I sat down and based upon that study, I crafted a video that I think would be perfect for you. And the title of that video is What You Get Out of Volunteering for a Political Campaign. There's a lot of experience in many campaigns and my experience in them that went into the content of that video. I also think that you would get a lot out of a deep dive into that topic. I'm going to suggest you watch that next. Oh, and by the way, it's free.